Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience. I'm here tonight with my first impressions of the Hifiman He-400Se. Before I get into my video, I did want to say I'm sorry it's been a long gap. It's been 18 days since I put out a video, and that was a kind of an update letting you know what was coming up. And if you did watch that, I had mentioned that I was about 3 days into being sick, and I thought I was getting better, I thought I was getting over it. But apparently I pushed it a little too hard the next day. I was, like I said, I was feeling a little better, but I do heat with wood, and I went out and split and stacked a load of firewood. And came back in and drastically went downhill and spent about 2 weeks sick in bed. Had a 102.8 fever and could barely get out of bed and couldn't listen to headphones, any music at all, speakers, headphones, anything. My brain just couldn't process it and just nothing sounded right. So had to take a break there for a couple weeks, and I am feeling better. I'm down about 17 pounds, not that I wanted to be. I think I went from 206 down to 189 because of this. I had several days I wasn't eating, and I've gained back maybe about 5 of that, but still got a long way to go. It's going to take me a while to recover. So anyway, I am back. Sorry for the long delay, and I do want to apologize to Jeff Wells from Wells Audio. Right before I got sick, I was working on my full video or my full review of the Wells Audio Dragon hybrid tube amp, and got sick and just had to put that completely on hold. And I told them that getting that video done was my first priority, but to be honest, after an almost 3-week break, doing a full review is just a little, I didn't want to start out with trying to do a full review of a nice amp like that. And not to say that this Hifiman headphone is not as nice, but the difference is doing a first impression is a lot easier for me than digging in deep and doing a full review. So just to get going again, I'm throwing together this first impressions video tonight, and Jeff, I will try to get that full review of the Dragon headphone amp as soon as possible. So thank you for your patience. Anyway, this is the Hifiman He-400Se, and this was loaned to me for review by Hifiman. This has a retail price of $149, but currently is on sale through Hifiman for $129. Excuse me just a second. I want to apologize in advance if I coughed during the video. Still trying to, still not 100% recovered. I had a real bad cough for several days. But anyway, this is a wired, full-size, over-the-ear, open-back headphone, and it uses planar magnetic drivers. And this headphone actually has the stealth magnets that were originally developed by Hifiman for the Sundara, their $6,000 flagship headphone, that have worked their way down the line now all the way to the $149 He-400Se. And if you don't know what stealth magnets are, basically if you look at the magnet from the end, it's shaped like a half circle instead of a square or rectangle, and the idea is the rounded edges prevent the magnets from causing distortion as the music passes through them. So I reviewed the Hifiman Aria just, I don't know, I guess it's been almost a couple months now, and less than that, a month and a half. But anyway, the Aria and the Diva, which both use the stealth magnets. But this is the lowest price Hifiman headphone, or any headphone that I'm aware of, that uses planar magnetic drivers with stealth magnets. So anyway, this uses a detachable cable, which is your pretty much standard Hifiman cable on your lower end Hifiman headphones. It's about 5 feet long. It has a rubberized covering on it. At the headphone end, it uses 3.5 millimeter connections. And at the amp end, you have a 3.5 millimeter connection also, with it does come with a 6.3 millimeter adapter. I'll try to give you a closer look at the headphone here. And it's got pretty much your standard Hifiman look to it. It is silver instead of black. And it does use the newer headphone, or the newer headband design. And it has click stops on it to adjust the size here. And I did want to tell you though that I'm about 2 clicks away from being at the largest size, and most headphones I'm right about the middle. So if you have a super large head, this might not have enough adjustment for you, but I would think for most people though it would be fine. The yokes swivel this way, and it's got a little bit of flex this way, enough that you get a good seal at the ear pads against your head. You can see here that the ear pads are tapered. They're thinner towards the front and thicker towards the back. And I believe there is synthetic leather with sort of a felt inside. They're actually very soft and very comfortable. The headphone itself is it's really comfortable. I got no issues at all with the comfort. I think I like the way the older headbands looked like on the Sundara, but this is, it's well padded, it's comfortable, the ear cuffs fit the way they should fit. It doesn't feel loose or like it's going to come off or anything, but the clamping force is barely noticeable, so it's actually a real comfortable headphone. I did want to mention the equipment I used in doing my first impressions of this, and I had just received these a few days before I got sick and got a chance to maybe put an hour or two in on them. And then, like I said, did no headphone listening at all for 2 weeks, and then the first few days was just not listening in a critical way, but just trying to readjust my brain and get everything sorted out again, to where I could get back to doing my reviews. So I had to spend a few days doing that. And then today I spent a couple hours with this and did do a little bit of comparing this to the Hifiman Sundara. Did want to mention my Sundara is the original version, the 2019 version, I believe. But anyway, as far as the equipment I used Cambridge Audio CD transport, running a digital signal into the Denafrips Pontus 2 DAC. And as far as amps, I've so far used the Audio GD Master 9. The Burson Conductor 3 reference, and the Waveborn Edelweiss 3 Power Amp Plus, which is a tube amp. As far as my first sound impressions of this, I would say that the sound, I would describe it as very neutral. Maybe a slight emphasis in the mid bass. And I'm talking slight, maybe 2 or 3 decibels at most. But basically a very flat frequency response with just maybe the slight bump down there in the mid bass. The extension is good on both ends. They're not the last word in sub bass extension, but they are pretty good, and actually I'd consider them exceptional at the price. The treble seems to extend well, seems to be clear, has good sparkle to it. The detail and resolution I would describe as very good, and actually I would describe as exceptional, once again considering the price of $149 and currently $129. The soundstage, I would say it has good width and decent height, but does seem to lack a little bit in depth. I'm not hearing a lot of sound, out in front of me. It's kind of two-dimensional. It has a little bit of three-dimensional holographic imaging or soundstage to it, but not a lot. But to be honest, I don't think soundstage depth has ever been a big thing for Hifiman. I've reviewed two of the Arias, the version 1 and the Stealth, and in my opinion, neither one of those had a huge amount of soundstage depth. The original had huge soundstage width. The newer Stealth version lacks a lot of that width, but neither one has a whole lot of depth to the soundstage. So that is, as far as I know, but I've never reviewed anything by Hifiman above the Aria, so I can't give my opinion on their higher end headphones. But I would say soundstage depth, they're good, but it's not something that really stands out about the Hifiman headphones. Anyway, the imaging. The imaging is good, the separation is good, the location is good, but I wouldn't describe it as pinpoint. The imaging seems just slightly vague to me, and I'll talk about that in a minute, comparing this to the Sundara. Dynamics, I would say, are average. It doesn't sound soft, but yet it doesn't sound punchy. And punchy can be good, but punchy can also be fatiguing. So I would say it draws a pretty good balance between being too soft or being fatiguing. It's a pleasant, nice headphone to listen to. So comparing this to the Sundara, and I've had a couple hours today jumping back and forth between the two, and I would say this headphone actually has just a little bit more weight to the bass, especially the sub bass, but probably the sub bass and the mid bass. This just has a little bit more weight to the bass. Maybe 2 or 3 decibels, not a lot, but some people do consider the Sundara to be a little thin in bass. And, to be honest, yeah, it could use a little bit more in my opinion. It's got the Sundara I consider just pretty much dead on, perfectly neutral. And this has got just a slight amount, a little bit more weight down there in the sub bass and bass. As far as detail and resolution, I don't think this quite reaches the level of the Sundara. The Sundara, in my opinion, and that's a headphone that originally sold for $500 and I believe currently sells for $350. The Sundara has exceptional detail in that price range. I haven't heard a headphone under $1,000 that the Sundara can't hold its own in detail and resolution. This isn't quite there in my opinion, but it's real close. It's like 95% of the way there. The Sundara, I'm just hearing I hear a little bit more texture and a little bit more, I don't know, maybe nuance is the word, especially in female vocals and piano notes. I'm just hearing a little bit more there with the Sundara than I am compared to this one. As far as the soundstage, the width and the height and pretty much the depth, pretty much everything. Soundstage is pretty close between this and the Sundara. They're both, real decent. I've never had any complaints about the soundstage on the Sundara. I do think though that the imaging is slightly more precise with the Sundara. I think the imaging is a little bit more pinpoint, where I think the separation between instruments and different sounds is a little better. And I think the imaging is a little more pinpoint, where you can, just hear exactly where each sound is coming from. But I did want to mention that none of these differences are large. When I first put these on, I thought they sounded very similar to the Sundara, and they do. I mean, they're different than the Sundara in their sound, but it's a lot of small differences, no one or two major differences. So anyway, dynamics. Okay, the HE400SE, in my opinion, has a little bit more weight to the bass, but I think that, to my ears anyway, the Sundara has slightly more punch to the bass. It's through the mid bass, even into the mid range. The Sundara seems a little bit more dynamic, a little more punchy to me. And I know some people find the Sundara to be a little bit fatiguing. Some of them, it's because they say the treble is too bright, but I wonder if maybe it's just because it is a pretty dynamic headphone, and that can be fatiguing to your ears after a while. And I did want to mention, I think the Sundara, that the treble has got a little more crispness to it. Just a little bit, I would say a little cleaner, a little sharper, a little more detailed, where the treble on this is just a little bit softer and a little more laid back. But I'm not saying it's bad, though. The treble on this is actually, it sounds really good to me. And I know a lot of people that would like the Sundara to actually tone the treble back a little bit, so they might, I would say those people are going to probably like this better than the Sundara. The treble is just a little bit easier to listen to. Comparing this to the Sundara, like I said, the Sundara was originally a $500 headphone. This is $300. It's $350 now. This thing sells for $149 retail and on sale at $129. So it's not really a fair comparison, but it's what I had to compare it to today. I'm going to try to put a full review out on this. It's probably going to be honest, it's probably going to be a month. I've got a lot of catching up to do. I've got several full reviews I need to do yet, and I've got on that as soon as I can. And I've also got the Hifiman Edition XS, which came at the same time as this. And as soon as I get that full review of the Wells Audio Dragon out, I'm going to try to get a first impressions out on that. So anyway, for my full review of this, what I'm going to try to do is, I do have a few other headphones in a similar price range that I want to compare it to. I've got the older Grotto SR80E. I don't have the newer X version. The newer X version actually I think sells for $129, which is the exact same price as this. I don't have one of those, so I'm going to compare this to the SR80E. I've also got the Philips SHP 9500. And those two headphones for like 3 years now have been my recommendations for entry-level audiophile headphones. And I've got to be honest, this has a very good chance of replacing those as my recommendation for a budget audiophile grade headphone, you know, that has a well-balanced sound and reproduces things in a neutral, you know, the way they were meant to be, the way it was recorded and meant to be heard. No, this isn't a headphone for bass heads. No, you know, it might not be right for all music, but if you're looking for a nice neutral headphone, like I said, this is going to be hard to beat in that price range. I also still have the Hifiman Diva Pro, which you know, I'll do a quick comparison to that, even though that is quite a bit more money, but it does have the extra features, the Bluetooth, the built-in amp. You can run it, you know, without an amp. It has a built-in attachment, you know, to use it as a with its own DAC built in and own amp and Bluetooth. Anyway, also, you know, I want to do a little more comparing this to the Sundara. The Sundara is a headphone that I've recommended for 3 years now as the best headphone in this price range. And to be honest, and my conclusion of this video is this headphone takes you at least 90% of the way to the Sundara. And in fact, some people I think are going to like this better than the Sundara, but in my opinion, this takes you about 90%, maybe 95% of the way to the Sundara for less than half the price. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about this headphone. I'm very impressed at the price. Oh, I think I forgot to mention that Hifiman claims a weight of 390 grams. I forgot to actually weigh it myself, but that seems about right. But like I said, not the lightest headphone in the world, but still very comfortable. So I'm going to wrap this up. Once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience. If this video has helped you, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I believe we're up to something like 15.6, 15.7 thousand members at the Headphone Experience on Facebook. We'd like to see you all over there. And once again, thanks for watching my video.